Hello, hello. Welcome for another episode of the Author Spotlight. Man, I'm so excited to be on here today with my main man, Mr. JD. JD, man, welcome to the show, man. I'm glad to have you on, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me. So it's all love.
Oh man, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. I just want to share a little bit about Mr. JD. He has been inspiring and motivating people for over a decade. What began as a way to educate groups of potential clients turned into a passion for reaching people through empowerment. He has spoke to diverse audiences all over the country on a wide range of topics and issues. Through a combination of personal stories, relatable anecdotes, and practical life lessons, JD has a goal of sparking the mind and heart of everyone he speaks to. JD has worked in wealth management for 18 years, advises some of the wealthiest clients in the world. He is a licensed attorney and certified financial planner with expertise ranging from tax and estate planning to investment management and philanthropy. His professional journey has served as the inspiration for his first book, How to Sell When Your Clients Don't Look Like You, a minority's guide to success in sales. He writes about having overcome his own self-doubt and insecurities with being a minority in corporate America and gaining the confidence to advise some of the top executives in the country. In his book, he introduces a new concept called diversity selling. Now, I'm going to stop it right there, JD, a little bit because you have a great bio and I want the people to hear it from the man himself because I can say all this, but it's nothing like hearing it from the source. JD, could you just share with us, man, why did you go with this as your first book?
Honestly, it came to me as an inspiration. I've always wanted to write a book, but I did not want to be all over the place. I didn't want to write about something that wasn't natural to me. And the topic, the title really just came to me in a thought. I had recently been mentoring some younger people in my industry, and I realized that many of us had similar issues, similar setbacks, similar concerns and problems. And I was like, I've experienced this on my own. I should write a book about it. And immediately the title came to my head, and I felt like it was something that I could tell because I've lived it. And so I could truly add value to the topic, to the scenarios, and I felt like I could really impact some people with
Man, that's great. That's great. Coming up, being solution oriented. That's what JD does for a living, man. He comes up with solutions. He's hit with, he has things that hurdles in front of him, but for him and his clients, he has to overcome hurdles, whether it's in the marketplace, whether it's giving advice for his clients, as far as what they should do with their estate planning, whatever it may be. JD can get it done for you. And when I think about getting it done, JD, that's a perfect segue because it's one thing for you to say, hey, you know what? I think I might have something here. I'm already doing something with some mentees about this. I've experienced it myself, but the juggernaut for most people is actually getting it done and believing that they could get it done. So JD, what made you believe that you could get it done as far as writing the book with the already busy schedule that you already have?
Well, I'm a strong believer in commitment. When you commit to something, I believe in seeing it through and finishing. And also, you have to have priorities. And it became something very important to me immediately, just because I've always sought to inspire people just in general ways. But in terms of getting it done, once I decided that I wanted to write a book, then I had to figure out how am I going to fit this new task into my schedule. And so, because I was extremely committed, I had to figure out how I'm going to do this. And so, I teach about when I'm giving talks, how people can achieve their goals. And something very simple I say is write it down, break it down, and knock it down. First you have to write down what it is that you want to accomplish. But once you do that, you have to break it down into doable, actionable steps so that it can seem real. You can't just wake up and say one day, I want to be the CEO. You have to say, okay, now I'm in management. What is the next step? Do I need more education or credentials? Do I need to achieve a certain success level in my position to move up. Then what is the next step after that? And so with writing the book, once I knew and wrote down what I wanted to accomplish, I broke it down into actionable steps. And so I committed to a certain amount of words per day. In the beginning, it was 1,000 words a day. And then it fell off to 500 words a day. But my goal was ultimately to have a book with at least 50,000 words, which equates to about 230, 240 pages.
I love that down. Write it down, break it down, and knock it down. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, for those of you who are out there, make sure that you write this down. Hey, I'm over here taking notes. You know, JD over here speaking, I'm taking notes because you're able to get some great advice over here that people pay, a pretty penny, so to speak. And my grandmother would hear what she would tell you with that good old Southern vernacular. Some people will pay a pretty penny for this advice that he's giving to you. So I just want those who are listening in today, don't take it lightly. You know, this is a man who has a lot on his plate. Some of us over here crying because we're trying to get a chapter done. And JD has, a full-fledged career. He got family. He got other responsibilities, things that he's doing in the community. It's a lot that JD does that nobody don't even know that he does, that he doesn't even share with people, because that's just the kind of individual that he is. So when you look at a man of his stature, and he was able to get it done, he already told you that he was already being a mentor and had mentees when the idea showed up. So along that, he was able to still juggle and get it down, but he had to write it down, break it down, and knock it down. So for those of you out there who saying, hey, I'm ready to get my book, Darren, I'm ready to get it done, but I don't know if I can do it because I got kids, or I don't know if I can do it because you don't know what the stresses I deal with at a job. I think JD can attest that he knows where you're going with this, and he was still able to do it with the formula that he has. So with that being said, JD, I just want to ask you this too, man, because while we're bringing up all the things that you do on a regular basis, some people have to ask, okay, JD, give me the secret, man. Give me, we want to see you give us, that plug talk, so to speak, that understanding of, as the guru would do. How are you able to get this stuff done? Could you give us some hacks to how you created that content and was able to get that quantity of words together, that word count, and get those pages for us, what you wanted for your book?
Well, writing a book is not easy for anybody. When you're writing a book, a self-help book, or a book about solving a certain issue or problem, for me, the easiest thing to do to get words on paper was to tell stories. So I started off just telling stories about personal things that I had experienced. That's an easy thing to write because you went through it. And so you tell the story from beginning to end, what the scenario was, what the problem was, how you overcame it, what you learned from it. Those are the things the content that you want to have in the story. And once I had a dozen stories, I formed the content of the book around the lessons learned in each of those experiences. So for somebody that's trying to write a book and you feel like, I don't know where to begin, I don't know how to start, just tell real life stories of your personal life, or of life of things of people that you may know that have experienced, but you always want to include what the problem or issue was, how you overcame it, and what you learned from it. And if you can do that, then you can form the content of your book around that.
I love that. I share that with our clients all the time, JD, about the importance of getting those stories lined out, man. I mean, if you got that, man, you're halfway there. You're more than halfway there when you get that down. Now you'll start seeing it flow. And I want that nugget, one of the nuggets that he just shared for those who are tuning in for this episode, is make sure that you understand about your story. You can't mess it up when it's your story. When you try to be somebody else, you might not can get JD's story down right because you hadn't lived JD's life. But when it comes to your story, you should be able to have that and let it flow like the Nile River, so to speak, because that's something that's relevant to you. It's something that you can go back to. It's something that's fresh on your mind. If you even need to ask a friend, a family member, a loved one about that particular thing, like, hey, do you remember when we was at the park and we were playing basketball and then this happened, or whatever it may be? Those are some great sources that you can go back to refresh your mind if you did miss something. but it's your story. So stick with doing you. And with having the book done, JD, I mean, could you share with us some of the benefits of having a book, what you've experienced, whether it be how family members looked at you, whether it be more speaking engagements, or how it has helped you in corporate to be looked at as an expert, or to be able to pour into more mentees? Could you share some of those experiences that you've had?
Sure. I know personally, just completing and finishing and getting a book published is an instant confidence builder, because it's almost like going through a process and completing something. Most people can go 75, 80% of the way, but what separates the best are people that finish what they're doing. And publishing a book is an indicator that you can finish something. When you do that, it sets you up as a person of credibility in whatever topic it is that you're writing about. And so now, not only is your resume, is your experience an indicator of your expertise, but the book that you just published is also validation of that. And so it's easier for you to get speaking engagements, for you to hold workshops, for you to be a person in the community that has a credibility in that area. And depending on your industry or whatever it is that you do, people will then look to you as the expert on that topic. And so, having a book is, gives you a long way in doing that, because not everybody's going to do that. Not everyone is going to take the time and the commitment to complete that. And so if you do, it immediately separates you, and it allows you to be able to use that as an opportunity to springboard you in many, many different directions.
Man, I really appreciate you sharing that, JD. And I want to speak to the people out there right now. He talked about the separation piece. If you look at my man, Harden, the MVP of the league, last year, the man, if you give him separation, he gonna knock down that shot for you. He gonna hit that 3-pointer or whatever it may be. I'm using the basketball analogy there. For those of you who are in corporate, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, the thing that you're not finding out in the saturated market for is on social media and things like that, you're not getting enough separation between you and the other individual. So, for some of you in corporate, okay, well, you got a bachelor's. Okay, that's cool, but you're really not, I'm not knocking people who got a bachelor, but I'm just saying I got one as well. But, you got a master's, but you got somebody from Singapore who's speaking 4 or 5 different languages. They already got maybe 2 masters. They already have experience in the industry. What are you doing to separate yourself? Those soft skills, understanding how to show that you have more value by the things that you're doing outside the job or outside your occupation, is something that can be a gateway and open up doors for you that nobody else can stop, so to speak. It's not that many people that are able to say, I've written a book about this. And, I'm just speaking to some of my corporate people right now. A lot of you corporate, some of my corporate people out there, I want you to understand that you're looked at differently when they're seeing that you're adding value in your community, for as what it might be something you're doing with a nonprofit, or how you're mentoring the people by getting a book done. Because guess what? They want to highlight that we have the best talent. That's what most employers want to do. They want to say, hey, look, hey, we got people that are part of our team. Hey, kudos to us. Look at the wonderful job our HR team is doing. We're bringing in the best here. If you work here, you want to be one of the best. And, and for the entrepreneurs out there, I see so many people making the mistake, JD, thinking that they have to do a biography or get an autobiography done, so to speak, before they can even come out with some content, instead of cutting the learning curve a little bit, as far as where they can go up the ladder, if they would go ahead and put some that position them. So regardless if you've lived 110 years or not, if you create something about something that you've experienced, like you said, it's a catalyst for people to look at you as an expert. Whether you are an expert or not, you will still get some of those fringe benefits by being that. Do you agree with that, JD? Some of the stuff that I'm sharing for those out there?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's not necessarily that you have to be an expert, but every one of us has a story. And what we've experienced, what we've learned, if you can articulate that in a book form, there's somebody out there who can resonate with that, who can empathize, who can understand, who can learn from that. And so, if you have the ability to do that, then you can impact and reach people. whether or not you're an expert or you're just someone who's decided that you're going to learn from the things that you've experienced. And there's somebody out there that can learn from it, like I said, that can empathize and that can understand. And we all need to hear your story.
And
I'll say
JD,
this really quickly, something that inspired me is Les Brown is one of my favorite motivational speakers. And I heard him say, no one's going to tell your story. No one's going to start your business. No one's going to write your book. And that stuck with me throughout my life. And even times when I didn't write the book that I wanted to, when I finally made the decision, that statement stayed in the back of my mind. And I felt like, if I don't tell my story, nobody's going to do it. And so that compelled me to start putting pen to paper and do what I had to do.
Man, I love me some Les Brown, man. As old Les will say, man, you got to be hungry. Old Les, man.
Right.
I mean, that is a lot to that, though. But that hunger of getting stuff done and finishing a task,
Right.
I wanted to go back to that, too, before we close it out. That's the same thing that it did for me, JD. When I was able to accomplish that first book, man, I mean, it really expedited my success. It was a catalyst that took me to a new dimension, a new level, because I started conquering all kind of other goals when I did that, because I started becoming a closer. And everything I was doing now, when I said, man, when I knew that I could get this book done, everything else, whether it was in relationships, business, with my kids, whatever it was, everything in my life shifted. I really had a quantum leap in my life when I got that book done. And when you broke it down in those words, I was going back looking, as my grandmother would say, hindsight is 20/20 vision, so to speak. And when you put it into that and into those words, I thought, like, man, that was it. That confidence I gained, I wasn't able to pinpoint it at that time, but I gained confidence. So now where I was maybe slacking in an area or starting some and all over the place, now that was the thing. Like, hey, I had that same focus of transferable skills. That same focus I had with that book, I started incorporating in every other area of my life, and I was able to reap the benefits of that. And just speaking of that, could you share with that person, JD, who might be straddling the fence right now? They're thinking to themselves, well, man, I'm not. It makes sense for JD to write a book. The man got more degrees than a thermometer. He's doing, taxes. He's a lawyer. He's an author. He's doing the man is G5 fresh every time you see him. I see why JD do a book. But come on, D. Come on, Darren. We're just gonna bring it on home right now. Why should I do a book? Could you share with them, JD, the importance of why they should share a book, whether they JD or whether they are Warren Buffett? If they're not them or Oprah or something like that, why is it important for them to still share their story with the world?
Well, if you have the ability to, you don't need an education to reach people. Martin Luther King said, anybody can be a leader because anybody can serve. And if you have a story, like I said, we all have one, and you are able to communicate it in a way that can help people, then that's compelling. I mentioned Les Brown earlier. He didn't have any type of education or degrees, but he's a world-renowned speaker because he has the ability to communicate and reach people in a way that no one can. We all have that. When I talk, I always say that 99.9% of our DNA is exactly the same as every other person. Only 0.1% of that DNA separates us. And so that 0.1% is what makes you think the way you think, talk how you talk, act the way that you act. And so if you can tap into that, then you can figure out what it is that makes your story unique, how you reacted to it unique, what you learned from it unique. And if you can tap into that, then your story is relevant, regardless of your credentials or background. You don't need that to validate what you've experienced and what you've been through.
Man, you just dropped the mic, JD. I don't know about y'all. I'm going over here. Hey, I'm over here muling over that 0.1%. I'm thinking about that right now. Something just triggered in my mind right there when I was listening. I'm like, oh man, that's fire right there. If you don't get that, that is the game changer. That's the game changer what JD was sharing with you all. I'm just going to share this. And like I said, JD put it in such great words, man, where you can get it. That's what I did even with the speaking what JD is bringing. I'm just showing my life. Let's do what JD is teaching. I didn't go in and try to be like everybody else. Now I worked and honored my craft, but that 0.1% was the difference. So when I would go speak, I didn't try to be like everybody else. So I know I have, and I put it even on my social media, I have Southern drawl like Tim McGraw. So I already done bust you in the head with the Southern drawl right when we get. So now I was like, you laugh, you're having a good time. You're not expecting for me to come in there like I graduated from Yale or anything like that. So now you're receptive because you can, because I own that instead of trying to run from it. And that was the separator. So that became a brand where you could identify me or want to desire me or my company to be there to be able to set it off as far as with speaking or publishing or anything like that because of that 0.1%. So you have to ask yourself, what is that 0.1% for you? What are you doing to go to the next level?
I always say people will pay more for an ugly original than a beautiful copy.
Ooh. Man. Like I'm gonna let y'all just let that marinate on your head like a good T-bone steak. We're gonna let that marinate a little bit, so we're gonna let that marinate. Man, I'm just want to tell you, safe travels. I know you'll be heading out the country. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. You still pouring into people. This man is who he say he is. He even had to come back and do another episode that y'all didn't see because the quality of the sound, but he wanted to help people so much. This guy is just a true stand-up person. I wanted to share this before we close out. I reached out to him at a networking event that I was at. I mean, he welcomed me with open arms, anything he could do to help. He didn't know anything about me or nothing else. But I'm just telling you, get around people that you respect. You'll be shocked. So many of you will just cancel somebody out. Some of you see JD wouldn't even say, now I'm not telling everybody to run up on JD. I didn't say that now, but I'm just saying you'll be shocked of the people who you respect and you might be admiring from afar, but you don't want to give them their roses. You don't want to give another person respect. It's abundance out here, people. And so if you see somebody doing a wonderful job, I just tell us like, man, I know you don't know me, but man, I follow your stuff on social media. I'm a fan of what you're doing. I love people being successful, and it inspires me to go for more and to do more. So I want to leave that nugget out there before I give the closing words to JD. Don't be intimidated, man. Get around people who gonna push you, who gonna help you soar. That's who you want to be around. I want to hang with JD. I want to hang with Eagles. I see JD. I done lost weight and got in better shape. I'm seeing JD work out. I'm working out. You see what I'm saying? Hey, I'm eating better. I see and he don't even know that. I'm just sharing this on the episode. I'm saying, hey, JD getting down like this. I need to work like this. You got to find people like Les Brown did for him. So, you just got to find people who help you go to the next level. Don't miss your opportunity because you being hateful or you don't want to. I don't want nobody to think they all that broken mindness. You have to rid yourself of that stinking thinking, as our man Zig Ziglar would say, rest in peace. But this is on you, man. Last words to the people, man, before you get out of here.
My last words are, nothing great ever happens in a comfort zone. If you're in a comfort zone right now, you're not going to accomplish anything that you want to do. And so make yourself uncomfortable. Take a different direction to work. Interact with somebody who you wouldn't normally talk to, read something you wouldn't normally read, do something to upset your comfort level, to expand your way of thinking, expand your mind so that you can grow. Because as long as you're in a comfort zone, you're not going to grow.
That is it, man, from a man, JD, and me. Remember, this is the year for your new book. And remember this, if you want change, be the change. We'll talk to you next time.